This PS3 Slim is bricked, and we're gonna use a classic tool to help us solve this problem, the E3 flasher. The reason this PS3 bricked was because the customer was trying to jailbreak or downgrade the console. The way that works is the NOR chip. This chip right here holds all the BIOS data. And when you try to change the BIOS data and it corrupts in some way, then you end up with a brick. Thankfully, he has the original backup, and we're gonna go ahead and flash it to this PS3. Now, in order to do it, we need to get this console to turn on, and right now it doesn't turn on at all. So a trick to turn this thing on but not get it to boot, because if it tries to boot, it's gonna shut right back off, we're actually going to short the NOR tri-state to ground. So this board is a JSD001, and our NOR tri-state point is this guy right here. So let's go ahead and add some flux, kick on the old fume extractor, solder a wire. This looks like a good ground right here. Blow some solder there. Now I do want to say that the color of the wire does matter, so make sure you use either a black or a green wire. And you also have to make sure that this wire is completely and fully calibrated, because if it's not, then this won't work at all. So if you do decide to try this at home, be very, very careful. All right, fine, I'm kidding. It's just a normal green wire. There's nothing special about it. And because most PS3s are dusty, we're gonna go ahead and clean off the pins of the NOR flash chip. Looks great. And we're gonna connect up our little ribbon cable. Then we have to fold it over on this model. Then we need to install the heatsink. All right, now that we have our heatsink on and the board is somewhat exposed for our cable, we can hook up the power supply and see if this thing actually turns on. Now my E3 flasher is a bit dusty and it should just work fine. Hopefully this is not foreshadowing anything. It's not working, again. It was just working. Why is it not working? Let's go ahead and connect the E3 flasher and connect our cable. Plug in our power board ribbon cable, plug it into this side. Now if everything works, we should get a power LED. Oh, it kind of works. And the console doesn't turn off. Okay, we weren't getting red, and that's probably because this ribbon cable is a little messed up, but that's fine. We got it on, and it is staying on, and that means that the NOR tri-state, it's definitely brick, and there's no other issues with it. So I can tell that the LEDs are not super bright on this. It may look like it on the camera, but it's true that they are not. And I bet if I push down, okay, we're missing something. And could it be the fact that there's no micro SD card in the slot? And that the slot is kind of broken? Yes, yes it is. Now I've got to reach into my bag of tricks and find an SD card reader. Yes, here we are. Plug our SD card in to the computer. And over on the computer, we're gonna copy over the customer's backup file. Perfect, we have it here. Now because it's on and we want to shut it off before we connect the SD card, we're gonna pull power. And because I have not yet replaced that SD card reader, we are going to use the classic tape method of holding the SD card in place while it reads the sensitive backup information to write to the NOR flash chip. That should be good enough. Now that we have that all connected, let's go ahead and hit the power button. And it turned on, that's great. And we have the oscillating blue lights right here. So we have it set to unlock, which is basically going to flash the backup that finds on the SD card. We're just gonna hope and pray that the first time I connected this cable is gonna just work, which if you've ever used an E3 flasher, you know that's like 1 in a million chance. Now let's hit start and see if we get any error codes. It's working. I don't know, it's working. And of course we have an error code. Since we got an error code here, I'm gonna try to reseat this ribbon and let's hope and pray that that works. Now let's try again. And we have the exact same error. Now you can barely see this on camera, but this is actually error code. Well, I can't say it because I can't pronounce it. Basically, this error means that it cannot open the SD card, which is probably why the tape method is not gonna work for me. So to fix this, I'm gonna introduce a clamp. Careful, there we go. Now, we should hit end and start again. Now let's hope it opens the SD card. And we have the same error. We have the same error. Let's shut it off. We're gonna take the tape off, put some alcohol onto these pins, and then by any sheer amount of luck, it should just read the SD card now. And I just realized we needed to switch this to flash fun and put unlock in the down position. Okay, so I think it's flash fun is what we need to have it set to. That was my bad. Okay, let's turn on the PS3. Okay, it's on, and let's hit start. And hope and pray that this one works this time. Okay, we're getting the famous error. This error is because the failed to erase NOR is what I believe it is. All right, so we gotta reattach the ribbon cable. Again, this is the complicated thing with these, is a lot of times the ribbon cable is just not reading, it's not seated correctly, it's missing pins on the chip and ends up not working the way it needs to. Sometimes you gotta put a lot of pressure on this for it to read. You know, a lot of times what I was doing is these have an onboard flash where you can desolder the chip and then put it here, and then you can just read and write to it. And it's just like a lot of work. And it's like, come on, you can just use the clip cable and it should just work. And same error. Oh, okay. This is going to be the death of me, I swear it. Okay, let's try to fish this out of here. Okay. You know, I know some of these cables are just not good, and I think I have a spare. Oh, let's fish it back in there. Push it down. Let's reseat this one. There we go. Turn on the console. All right, and hit start. This time it has no problem reading the flash card, or the TF card, but it is not erasing the NOR, and it's probably because of the connection issue. So let's hope this time around it works, which I don't know if I have high hopes. No, I don't have high hopes because it's not working again. Okay, give me a minute. Let me see what I can do. All right, I decided I'm gonna just desolder this chip. You know, the best way to do this is to apply flux. All right, let's desolder this chip. And there it is. All right, we got the chip off. Now that we have our chip off, we need to set up our E3 flasher to boot off of 3 volts. So according to the PS3 dev wiki, this is the pin that we need to solder to for 3.3 volts. And I do think it's ironic that I've already applied solder to this pin. It's because I've already done this before. So our 3.3 volt wire is going to be brown and our ground is going to be yellow. Now, because my heart's content, I want to try this. We are going to just try to put this chip in this clip and clamp it down as is. So the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to put a piece of plastic down and then take a clamp and we're going to clamp that. Now we should be able to connect our ribbon cable. Now we need to connect our power supply. We're conveniently connecting yellow to yellow and our 3.3 volt line, and it should come to life. And it does. Lovely. All right, it's on. Now, before we do all of this, we're going to go ahead and connect our SD card because I want to make sure that's 100%. Turn it on and the flasher comes to life. Great. Now let's hit start and hope and pray that this works. And we have the same problem. Why? There could be a problem with the ribbon cable. It's never easy for me, is it? What if we clamped it from both sides? So just the pins are touching just the pins on the cable. And then there is going to be even amount of pressure on both sides of this. And then hopefully, by any sort of amount of luck, it should just work. Okay. Now let's turn on our flasher. The air compressor kicked on, but we're going to hit start anyways. And we have the same read problem. Well, since we're having the same problem, let's do the old solder it right to the flasher. I think it's just not getting a good connection on this clip. All right, flux, flux, flux. You already know the deal. Now we're gonna bring in the old solder braid and we're gonna go ahead and clean all of these pads. All right, it's gonna make our job that much easier. Now we're gonna line up the dot right here with the dot on this chip and just get it into place. Unfortunately, doing this is much easier than trying to get that clip to work, especially if your clip is like super old. First thing we need to do is solder one of these corner pins. It's going to make our job a whole lot easier when aligning this chip to make sure it's all right. That one's good, and this one is also good. And we'll come in and do this one over here. Add some more flux. I think there's enough solder here. We're just going to drag solder this. There's not enough solder, so we need to add some more solder to this iron. We're gonna just drag solder it to connect all of our pins. Now we're gonna know that we have a surefire connection and that it's gonna just work first time. There's gonna be no problems. We're not foreshadowing anything. It's just gonna work with no problems at all. And same with this side. We're gonna bring in the iron that distributes a lot more heat a lot faster. All right, clear up the solder joint because we can't have bridges. Data won't pass through if it's connected to every pin. All right, so we're good to go. Now I'm not gonna worry about cleaning this flux because we really don't need to. Of course, we can't forget to connect our SD card. Turn it on, 3.3 volts, and it's booted. Now we also have to change this from micro SD card to onboard flash. Oh, no, and program onboard flash because backup and yeah, you get the point. If you don't know, backup, this is either going to back up your NOR flash. It's going to create a backup from that chip to the SD card if we hit backup, and onboard flash is basically we're going to program from micro SD card to onboard flash. So let's leave that in the off position just in case, but we definitely want to program onboard flash. All right, hit start. Is it going to work? We're going to have success today.
Hey, I doubt it.
You know, one time I connected this micro USB port to my PS3 or my computer or something, and it completely killed my flasher. So I don't even know what this port is for. Why does this port exist? I have absolutely zero clue. Don't plug anything into it because you'll kill your flasher. I really hope this works. I have a feeling it's going to. There's no way that this is not going to work this time.
You sure about that?
I mean, it's soldered to the flasher board. It literally can't fail.
You sure about that?
It's got a perfect solid connection with no bridges. It's gonna work.
You sure about that?
And since it's taken this long so far, I think it's successfully erasing the NOR and programming it. So let's hope that this is gonna work.
6.5 hours later.
Okay, yeah, so it's been long enough, and of course, we don't see any progress on the blue lights yet. But since it's taking as long as it is, it more than likely is erasing the NOR because it can actually read it this time. It's really unfortunate that I have to solder this chip, but well, it is what it is. I wish I could use the clip, but the clip just never works. All right, now I'm gonna let the background music play, and hopefully this just works.
2,000 years later.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the flasher is not turning on, and I don't know why. It was just working. Let me do some investigating. Well, we have a problem. For some reason, this E3 flasher is dead. We have to order a new one. So I guess I'll see you guys in 3 weeks.
1 eternity later.
Okay, and it's been 3 weeks later, and we have a new E3 flasher. Oh, and here she is in all the glory. Man, look at that. And let's see what else we got. Oh, cool. Brand new E3 flasher ribbon cable. And the faceplate. Perfect. Okay, let's put this faceplate on. All right, brand new E3 flasher. I guess trying to figure out a solution here. So I think we should wire this up for 3 volts, except we use a buck converter this time, instead of just going directly into the power supply. I think my big problem was my power supply was overloading this E3 flasher. Starting off at a higher voltage and ended up killing the processor on the back. All right, so let's grab a DC to DC buck converter. All right, let's place the DC to DC buck converter. Now we just need to tune it and solder it in, and then we should be good to go. And let's save these wires from the old flasher. Solder our ground point and our 3.3 volt line. That'll be our input voltage. There's that. There's our ground. We can just slide this on and through here. Feed the wires through here. Perfect. Slide them all the way through. Perfect. That way it just stays away from this ZIF connector. Now before I connect anything, I want to make sure that this thing is ready to go at 3.3 volts. Now let's just make our quick adjustments. So the cool thing about this little DC to DC buck converter is if we take our multimeter leads, and the output is over here, we have 3.3 volts. So even if we vary this output all the way up to 12 volts, we still have a solid 3.3 volts, even if we go back down. Let's connect our ground. Perfect. Connect our VCC, 3.3 volts. Now we need our input. Now I think it would only be fitting if we used a USB-C connector. Now I think the best place to put a USB port on this flasher would probably be towards the back. So I'm thinking like maybe over here. So my hope is that there is still copper under the board here. I don't know for a solid fact, but we need 4 little pads that we can solder this thing to, and then we can run our wires up to our DC to DC buck converter so we can power this thing. Now the cool thing is this can take 5 volts on up to like 24 volts or something like that and convert it down to 3.3, which is amazing. So any input voltage that we get on this side is going to immediately turn into 3.3, and it will keep it stable because of these caps here. So yeah, let's get this port soldered in. And is there copper underneath? Yes, there is. Basically what we're doing is we're creating our own pads to solder this port to. All right, perfect. That should be more than sufficient to mount this. Now we gotta add our fancy flux. Gonna help that solder to flow. And then let's flow 1 pad. I guess that works. It's not pretty, it ain't much, but it's honest work. Go right there. We'll just touch that one up again, why not? Now let's take a look at our port. Our USB-C modded E3 flasher is coming together, guys. Now we just have to connect wires from here to here. So realistically, fun fact about these USB-C connectors that I got from Amazon, the 2 outside pins are going to ground. So we can legitimately just wire a wire from here to here. Because as long as we have our ground, which is connected here to here, it will be just fine as long as the ground is also connected to here, which it technically already is here. So all we need is really just this line to the 5-volt pin, and then we need ground connected there, and then it should just work. So let's add solder here first. Let's get these pins tinned. We don't need data, we just need 5 volts and ground. So I'm gonna just make a little ground pad. Actually, I'll make a ground pad here. Then we can just flow solder right over to it. Same on this side. It'll make things nice and neat. There's 1 and 2. Perfect. Now let's quickly clean it up and take a look at what we got going on here. So now we just need to connect the 5 volt together and run a wire up there. Then we're good to go. Since we have some flux right here, we should be able to just connect this wire. And I should be able to just solder this in. And there we go. Got our 5 volt line connected. And our ground. Okay, now we just need to daisy chain the 2 5 volt lines together. Now the reason we're doing this is because USB-C can be flipped in either direction. We want 5 volts to work on both sides, just like that. That should be sufficient. And let's tack it in place. There we go. Now, we got our 2 5 volt lines going to the USB-C jack. We got our ground soldered and the whole thing is soldered in, ready to go. You know what? It doesn't look great, but if it works, does it really matter? So let's clean everything up, make it look nice. Now in any stretch of the imagination, this should just work to power the flasher, and we should see it come to life for the first time. Set the power supply to 5 volts. Let's connect our USB-C cable to it. All right guys, it's now or never. Will it work? I hope I didn't just wait 3 weeks for nothing. 3, 2, 1. And do we see the blue lights? No blue flashing lights. I think maybe we have to have the cable connected. Dude, if I just went and I thought that my E3 flasher died because I didn't have a cable connected, I'm gonna be so pissed. 3, 2, 1. Blue flashing lights. Oh my god. So I had to have a flashing cable connected the whole time, so the other one probably would have worked just fine. Oh my god. Okay, well it's working. We need to get this thing moving and dump the flash. Oh, sorry. Actually, we need to write the flash to the new chip. Now this chip has been sitting for 3 weeks waiting for me to write the dump to it, and the flux has just been festering, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and get this a really good clean. I'm gonna try something I've never tried before, because I'm really curious. Okay, our chip is basically clean, so let's go ahead and hook up the flasher and see what happens. Okay, so here's my plan. We're gonna take the new E3 flasher that is been modified with USB-C, and we are going to take the PS3 chip that we need to flash. We're actually going to be removing this and putting it on the PlayStation 3 once we're done flashing it, but we're going to use this flasher to flash this flasher. And then we're going to remove the chip, put it on the PS3, and hopefully it works. So let's plug in our NOR flash cable. All right, so I got the flasher cable connected. This is going to be interesting if this works. Okay, and then we need to have the flasher set. PS3 flash fun. This should work, in theory. Let's power the E3 flasher and just see what happens. The flasher was just on. What the frick? It's not working. Why is it not working? 5 volts. It's not even drawing anything. What the heck? We just had it working. Let me do some measurements and see what's going on here. We have no input voltage. So something's wrong with the USB-C port or the cable. Let's plug the USB-C cable into my computer. Since it's going to convert it down to 3.3, it should just work. Okay, it's working. Okay, so there must be something wrong with the power supply cable. All right, now we have our modded E3 flasher. Now let's plug in our second E3 flasher to this one, and we're going to try to flash the dump that was on this SD card over to this flash chip. Then we'll desolder it and we'll put it on the PS3. Flasher turned on, and it's in ready standby mode. So let's hit start and see if it works. And this is a brand new flasher cable, so hopefully there's no problems first time around. It writes to the chip, it can erase it, it can read it, it can do everything, and we're good to go. Okay, so we have an error initializing TF card. Let's disconnect the TF card. What's crazy is I waited an entire month to get a second E3 flasher, only to realize that all I needed was a good cable. Okay, reset the flasher. Dude, I just looked up and I saw that it's actually working. It's actually writing to the chip. It's working. It's working. Okay, the flasher just finished. So we should be good to unplug it. Now we can take our other flasher, remove the chip, and put it onto the PS3, and hopefully it will work. Okay, now we should just be able to desolder this chip with no problems. And then we can just put this chip onto the PlayStation 3 and it's good to go. 16 megabytes of expansion memory. Now to install this chip, we're gonna add some flux here to both sides of all these pins. Dude, I remember when I was younger and I had the absolute hardest time trying to desolder and resolder on one of these chips, and I never ever was successful doing it. But now at this stage in the game, I suppose, you know, once you know how to solder, you know that you're going to be good to go. I mean, but it takes practice, man. Like, doing stuff like this is no joke. It's not an easy feat by any stretch of the imagination. All right, now let's take and clean up our pads on our area. That way we are good to go when soldering in this chip. All right, put the chip back in place. We want to line it up the best we can. Once we do one leg, we can do the rest. Now let's start with this side. We can go ahead and solder all these pins in first. Let's grab our bigger soldering iron and come in just like that. We'll drag the solder on over, and then we'll have perfect solder joints. Beautiful, that's it. All right, now let's do the south side. It should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, add the flux. And to make my life 5 times easier, we're just gonna move this board, and we should be good to go. Perfect. Both sides are done. Let's clean up with a brush. All right, perfect, 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 perfect. Use the little blower to blow away all the rest of the flux and alcohol. All right, let's test the PS3 and see if it works. Also, if this wire is connected to the Nord Tri-State to ground, the console will turn on, but it will not boot. So we need to get rid of this cable. All right, let's plug it in. Hey, we have a red standby light this time. Does it turn on, shut off, and does it read the hard drive? Reading the hard drive. And it's booting. We saved another PS3. It's working. Customer's data is safe. We did it. There it is. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. If you need a repair, links in the bio. I'll see you in the next video.